So there's a lot with Scottie Scheffler on the table as he looks for major number 4, as he looks for his first Open Championship and his first Claret Jug. But Scottie Scheffler spoke today at the Open Championship at Royal Portrush about success, about winning. And it may not be the answer that you would expect from the world's best player. Mm-hmm. This is what Scottie Scheffler said earlier today about winning.
It feels like you work your whole life to celebrate winning a tournament for like a few minutes. It only lasts a few minutes, that kind of euphoric feeling. Like to win the BEYER Nelson Championship at home, I literally worked my entire life to become good at golf, to have an opportunity to win that tournament. And you win it, you celebrate, get to hug my family, my sister's there. It's such an amazing moment. And then it's like, okay, now what are we going to eat for dinner? You know, life goes on. Is it great to be able to win tournaments and to accomplish the things I have in the game of golf? Yeah. I mean, it brings tears to my eyes just to think about, because it's literally worked my entire life to become good at this sport, and to have that kind of sense of accomplishment, I think is a pretty cool feeling. You know, to get to live out your dreams is very special. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not out here to inspire the next generation of golfers. I'm not here to inspire somebody else to be the best player in the world, because what's the point? You know, this is not a fulfilling life. It's fulfilling from the sense of accomplishment, but it's not fulfilling from a sense of like the deepest places of your heart. There's a lot of people that make it to what they thought was going to fulfill them in life, and then you get there and all of a sudden you get to number 1 in the world, and then they're like, what's the point? I really do believe that, because, you know, what is the point? You're like, why do I want to win this tournament so bad? That's something that I wrestle with on a daily basis. It's like showing up at the Masters every year. It's like, why do I want to win this golf tournament so badly? Why do I want to win the Open Championship so badly? I don't know, because if I win, it's going to be awesome for about 2 minutes. And then we're going to get to the next week and it's going to be like, hey, you won 2 majors this year. How important is it for you to win the FedEx Cup playoffs? And it's just like, we're back here again, you know? So we really do. We work so hard for such little moments. And, you know, I'm kind of a sicko. I love putting in the work. I love being able to practice. I love getting out to live out my dreams. But at the end of the day, sometimes I just don't understand the point.
Very revealing, very candid, and very honest from Scottie Scheffler in that scenario. And I think he's echoing what we're hearing more and more about, just more surprising coming as he sits there as the number 1 player in the world. Lonely at the top is a cliche, but I think that's everything that Scottie Scheffler is saying right now, that especially in an individual sport and of what you're trying to accomplish, the winning of that or being at the top of the mountain just isn't what it's cracked up to be.
Crazy to hear from a guy who has pretty much done everything in golf, and like you said, world number 1. But this is something that I think is a real statement. There's times, and I'm not a world number 1 in anything, but there are times where I'm thinking, I'm like, what am I doing with my life to make the world better? And I was like, I wish I could win the lottery and I would open an animal shelter, and I think that's where I would be the happiest. I do. Not that I don't love my job or sitting here with you week to week talking about sports because I love it, but I wonder, like, what would make me like truly the happiest? And I need money to do that. So that is something, a goal I have.
It's not landing that media job that pays you $100 million. It's getting the $100 million.
So I can go do that.
Yeah.
So that I can go help animals. That's what I would want to do. So I really understand where that's coming from, but it's crazy to hear it from someone in his position.
It is. And it's a point that we've actually heard before in the world of golf, but not when the player is number 1 in the world. Mm-hmm. David Duval, about 24 years ago, he won the Open Championship. David Duval, for years, was considered to be the best player in the world to have never won a major. This is also height of Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is the guy. Tiger Slam from 2000 to 2001. David Duval is trying to track down that elusive major and trying to become number 1 in the world. I've probably told this story a couple of times because I've heard David Duval retell it as well. Duval ultimately made it to number 1, and he ultimately he won a major and winning the 2001 British Open. But he was so obsessed with being number 1 and winning that major and taking down Tiger Woods that he changed his diet, did everything. He said he wouldn't even take an after dinner mint from a restaurant because he was so strict on his diet. So he goes and he wins the Open Championship, and he's got the claret jug in his hand as he's flying back home to the United States. And he's like, is this it? Is this all there is? Like, this is what I've sacrificed so much that I wouldn't even take a dinner mint, and I don't feel anything hours after accomplishing what I've put not only just the past few years, but ultimately your whole golfing life. David Duval never won a major after 2001, and I don't think that Scottie Scheffler, David Duval, and other players are that different in feeling this sort of feeling. But David Duval revealed all of this a few years after he won it, not while he's still trying to track down another major, a career Grand Slam to match Rory McIlroy to keep that number one ranking. That's what's so telling about Scottie Scheffler to me, is that he's doing it while he's in the process, and to have the wherewithal. Someone like Naomi Osaka, who the tennis player who had talked about her struggles. It's a new athlete, it's a new world, but I also think that the pressures that these specifically individual athletes have to deal with that aren't a part of team sports. Mike Harmon and I, a couple of weeks ago, Mike brought up the point of talking about, this was during Wimbledon, of the difference between team sports and individual sports and how you deal with it mentally. And as we were talking that day, I said, I just think that individual sports are completely different. And Scottie Scheffler shows why that is. For as great as his team may be around him, he's the only one that won the Open Championship. His caddy with him on the bag, Ted Scott, yeah, he was with him the whole time, but Ted Scott didn't win it. He hugs his wife and his kid after. They didn't win it. They were along for the ride, but he's the only one. And that's what I think is so different, especially when you compare it to team sports, is if you win a championship, if Monty and I, you and I win an award as a show, it's like we share in that. We can talk about that with the producer.
Correct.
Scottie Scheffler is the only one that has that. So nobody else can understand what he's going through, but he also has no one to share it with. And I just thought it was very, very just a clear explanation of what it's like in the drama of being number one in the world.
And I think you hit it right on the money, the sharing aspect of it, because it can come off very egotistical if he keeps talking about his win, because he's by himself. Like, you tell your best friend that you won, your wife or whatever, and it's like they're going to tell you, oh my God, how great. But then that's it. Like, if somebody else is there to relive the moment with you because they were part of it, it keeps... You can keep talking about it. But when you're by yourself, it's like everyone's like, yeah, no, we know. Why do you keep talking about it? But it's like he has nobody else to live it with. He has to share it with people who are probably tired of it. And it is a tough situation.
Not to interrupt, but honey, this trophy is why I was at the range for 10 hours a day and not with you at home.
Right. Let's remind you of that.
Yeah, this is now, I'd rather be there, just like you'd maybe rather be feeding dogs and cats or around the world.
I would.
But that's like the point as well, is like, look at what I've got, and maybe I hadn't spent time with you. I thought there's a lot more to it. I want to bring in Jason Stewart as well, because you were pretty struck by these comments as well from the world number one.
I think that's what's so cool about what he said, is that I think what he said resonated with everybody listening, and I think we all have kind of our own takeaways from it. And you just don't get athletes that are this sophisticated and this articulate to lay out feelings like that.
We just need some WD-40 on that chair.
Yeah, what is that?
Yes. I've tried to tell Ryan, once I open the mic and this chair goes off, it's amazing.
He wants to sit back and relax and listen to you.
Sorry.
So my point is this. It really, this is how it strikes me. That it just sounds like a guy who has something wrong with him, and I'm not being flippant with this. It sounds like there is something in his life that needs fixing. He needs to go to therapy. He needs to do something, and that if he leaves for work every morning unfulfilled, so if it's something in his personal life, maybe he is someone that has not found the faith that fulfills him. That whatever that purpose in life that we're all struggling to find is. He hasn't reached that yet, because he's never going to be able to enjoy the results of work until he has fixed what is wrong with him when he walks out of the house every morning. And I know that probably sounds a little too philosophical for this, but that was the takeaway from me, and that we could all relate to that. The people listening to the show right now could relate to, I had a bad day at work today, and it's because of unfixed things that happened in my personal life or in my personal consciousness. And I think that's the takeaway for me with Scheffler. Nothing to do with individual sport or team sport. I think it's just he's telling us that there's something about him that's unfulfilled.
I think with Scottie Scheffler that the fact of you're going to another tournament the next week, and I think that's also what he kind of led some stuff to as well, of like it just doesn't stop as well. Like maybe there's not a point to appreciate it yet. And, now that I'm saying that, maybe that's not the case, considering he says after a few minutes, he's like, okay, all right, and maybe that lends to the
next
point.
one.
Yeah, and I think that you'll understand, it's not that we use the term, or Jason uses the term wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's not that there's something wrong with Scottie Scheffler. There's just something that's not right at this time. I think, and if that makes sense, because I think it's an easier way to look at it, of just like, all right, for some reason I'm not getting fulfilled by this, but there's got to be a way where others have been able to be fulfilled. How do I maybe reach that point? Isaac, you want in?
Yeah, well, first of all, I do have to dispute Monse on something. You actually are the world number one at avoiding jury duty, by the way. We're all very envious of that.
Thank you.
I want to raise this topic. Do you guys see any similarities with Scottie Scheffler's comments and kind of what Sean McVay recently went through? He won the Super Bowl, but then it was a mixture of burned out and unfulfilled. Is this all there is? I'm still in my 30s. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? And he came very, very close, as it turned out, to stepping away until he ultimately got rejuvenated really only in the last year.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I there's just you guys are all making really great points, and I think there is a similarity to that. And to what Jason said, I just think he's like, I'm a golfer. Like, I'm not trying to diminish it. He's just saying, like, I'm just a golfer. What else am I doing? Yeah. I'm just an athlete. When I think if his job was, I'm sure it's exhausting, but being a doctor, you probably go home feeling exhausted and it's hard, but I feel like that's a fulfilling job. You're helping people and you're helping them, right? So I feel like he's just kind of like, I'm a golfer and I've done it all, and it's like, cool, but what else?
Everything is done for Scottie Scheffler. Like,
right.
Everything that is done around him is for him. Whether it be his coach, whether it be his caddy, whether it be his wife and the traveling, like everything is done for him. And, I go back to what do I have to show for it? Sure, a big paycheck.
Right. Sure,
big sponsorships, and this trophy here. Sorry, I wasn't at home. That's how I heard some of his comments. He said something in the first part early on saying that he doesn't play the game to inspire people. I don't think anybody does. But I also think it shows the heavy burden and how Tiger Woods was wired so differently. And when you're talking about the greats of the world and we could even go into other sports, but Tiger obviously wasn't wired like Scottie Scheffler is. And Tiger had this desire and this goal to reach the point he was going to reach the goal that he had set out when he was younger, and that's to break Jack Nicklaus's record of 18 majors. Jack Nicklaus was an amazing, amazing player that also had his wife and family around him, that they were a part of the tour. I don't think golf today is conducive to what it was 50 years ago. It's on a much smaller scale back then. Now it's much bigger. You heard a lot about the Nicklaus family. You hear stories about the Nicklaus family. Jack having his son caddying for him in 86, how much his wife sacrificed but also was along there with him. I'm not making any comments about Scottie Scheffler in his personal life. That is absolutely 100% not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is for some reason this has gotten so big. And for Tiger Woods and to do what he did inspire a whole generation. The generation that is Scottie Scheffler. Mm-hmm. Like it truly is. And Scottie Scheffler is the first player that we have had since Tiger Woods to really match what Tiger has been doing. So for as great as Brooks Koepka and Rory McIlroy have been, like Scheffler's numbers and what he's been doing at times has been Tiger-esque. And even Rory McIlroy, who I just mentioned, Monty, said after winning the Masters this year, just months after saying he had 3 goals left in life, winning the Masters, winning an Olympic gold medal, and winning another away Ryder Cup. He accomplished the first and then admitted at the PGA Championship and at the U.S. Open that, yeah, there was a major letdown after the Masters. I had accomplished what I had intended to accomplish, at least one of those things, and it took a while for him to get back on track. Hopefully for Rory's case, he gets back on track at his home in Northern Ireland this week. But Scottie Scheffler isn't alone in feeling that way. Rory McIlroy felt that way. David Duval felt that way. It's just to have the number one player in the world who's at the top of his game talk about how unfulfilling it is right now. Crazy.
I'm not going to lie. It made me really like Scottie Scheffler hearing him say that. I just felt like it was such a real answer that maybe people are afraid to say. People who are successful and are in the media and famous who have money, like that took a lot to say because he's going to be criticized. People are going to be like, what do you mean? You have all the money in the world. You're a champion in the world. What are you complaining about when I have nothing? Like that's, I think, the natural reaction that people are going to get, the first reaction. But what he said is absolutely so real. You got there and then it's like, that's it? I celebrated for 20 minutes and then we move on. And I have to go do it again.
Then you're back to normal life.
And you're back to normal. And that whole thing of like, I'm not here to inspire. Again, people can read into that and be like, what do you mean? I also think like the inspiration comes naturally. You don't get to pick when you're an inspiring person. It just happens. Caitlin Clark didn't pick to be an inspiring WNBA player. She is inspiring. You're selected to do that, like Tiger Woods. So I feel like a lot of what he said was really brave to say it in his position because it can be looked at really negatively from the public perception.
Such a great point because there's so many different ways that you could take it. And that's why I wanted to make sure that I said that I'm not saying that there's problems at home or problems with his family. Because I think that some people will take it that way, and I don't think that's what he's saying at all. I think what he's just trying to say is there are pitfalls to putting everything that you have in life into one thing, and then that not, the fruits of your labor aren't necessarily what you thought they would be. And if he wins this week at the Open Championship, guess what? Let's get ready, go back home because the FedEx Cup playoffs and like there's more tournaments that are going to be happening after that. So you're not sitting there basking in the limelight of winning an Open Championship. It's a bit of a rat race.
Yep.
I think maybe would be the best way to say it. Final thoughts, Jason, on anything of what Scottie Scheffler said out of this discussion?
I think I just kind of worked this out in my mind too as you guys were talking, that I think that the weird thing about this is that this singular focus that Scheffler talks about, and he also talks about embracing the process. He loves the process. He loves going out and hitting balls every day. He really does. But that singular focus, so the same thing that makes him amazingly great is also making him like ultimately unfulfilled. Does that make sense? Like
100%.
Yeah. And I think Tiger Woods, I think he's just built completely differently.
Yep.
That I really do think Tiger Woods wins one major, checks it off, he's going to the next one, and I think he is fulfilled by the competition and by beating people's ass. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Scheffler is fulfilled by that last part.
I know we're going long. Tiger changed his swing multiple times, not only to continue to be great, but also because he just loved the process of working. So he's revamping his swing, not only to try to help things, but he just loved that process and to try to reach a greater height. And so it's like kind of like Tiger's like one of one. Mm-hmm. But when he made the inspiring deal, which I totally get, as you said, you don't choose to inspire people, but it shows also the weight that Tiger Woods carried on his shoulder, that he was able to carry it because he was a different cat than Scottie Scheffler was.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with finding fulfillment in kicking someone's ass and working towards that. There's nothing wrong. And that's so Kobe Bryant, I think, was fulfilled in kicking your ass on the court every single day. And Scottie Scheffler, maybe he didn't realize this 5 years ago, and this is just an epiphany that he's having now.
Yeah, absolutely. We could go on and on talking about it.